In June and July of 2014, Sidney Museum held its first ever doll exhibit, focusing on the best-loved dolls of the past 100 years, from antique china dolls to dolls of today. The show opened with a special display of handmade dolls from local Sydney doll maker Romona King. These exquisite dolls are crafted from fabric, wood, trims, and other materials. They capture a magical world of whimsical characters, from dancers and jugglers to jesters and other performers. The main exhibit starts with a collection of French and German china and bisque dolls from 1880 to about 1910. These dolls were expensive toys at the time and are valued by collectors today. Most children had homemade dolls made of wood, fabric, straw, or corn husk, and inexpensive china dolls called frozen charlottes. For most girls in the early 1900s, any one of these dolls would have been a treasure, whether the buy-low baby in her homemade cradle or the straw-stuffed muslin doll with her sweet painted face and mohair wig. The exhibit included around 450 dolls in total, which were displayed in the museum's temporary exhibit gallery and throughout the museum in roughly chronological order. We also had the privilege to exhibit fantastic doll-inspired paintings by local artist Crystal Desharnais. Fabric dolls have always been popular, from dolls based on commercial patterns to fully manufactured fabric dolls like those created in the 1920s by Lency, Raynal, and Chad Valley. The unmistakable Cupid doll dates from the same time period, as does this pincushion doll from the museum's collection. By the 1930s, dolls were being made to represent real people and fictional characters like Shirley Temple and Snow White, and of course, cloth dolls like Raggedy Ann continued to be popular. After World War II, plastic dolls became the norm, followed by vinyl and soft plastic dolls in the 1950s. Toy companies worked to create character dolls of their own, like American character Sweet Sue dolls, Vogue's little 8-inch Ginny dolls, and Ideal's glamorous Miss Revlon. McCall magazine used Betsy McCall dolls as a way to hook young readers. New materials, ease of manufacture, and post-war prosperity meant that there were more dolls than ever in the world. Baby dolls, toddler dolls, and adult dolls, all with the fashions and accessories to meet their every need. In the 1960s, doll companies introduced new lines of dolls. Large dolls like Wendy Walker, marketing dolls like this doll from Vermont Made Syrup, and high-tech talking dolls like Chatty Cathy. Pretty drinking wet baby dolls, slightly scary wide-eyed dolls, and the much-loved Grow Hair family featuring Chrissy and her sister and friends. Of course, the most famous doll in the world is part of this early 1960s fashion doll trend. In 1959, Mattel introduced Barbie and her friends, Midge, PJ, Ken, Alan, and others, to the world. With fabulous clothes and an exciting, if imaginary, life, Barbie and her crew were an instant hit with children and adults worldwide. The dolls seen here span the first few decades of Barbie's life, from the early 1960s through to the late 1970s. Whether windsurfing at the beach, competing in the Miss America pageant, or dancing the hula in Hawaii, Barbie's life reflected the dreams and aspirations of many girls and women of the time, including having a handsome boyfriend and an extensive wardrobe. As you can see, the detailed fashions that Barbie wore are as collectible as the dolls themselves. In the late 1960s and into the 1970s, many smaller-sized dolls were released, like Mattel's Baby Small Walk, pop culture characters like Snap, Crackle, and Pop, Topper's Dawn and Friends dolls, Penny Bright dolls from Deluxe Reading, a reissue of Vogue's 8-inch Ginny dolls, originally from the 1950s, Kenner's sweet-faced and sweet-smelling Strawberry Shortcake and Friends dolls, Ideal Flatsy dolls, and the tiny but very collectible Hasbro's Storykins and Mattel's Little Kittle dolls in their many incarnations. The 1970s saw a number of fashion dolls, such as Classic Beauties line from Mattel and Bonnet Bells, which reflect the fashions of the age and were generally considered for display rather than for play. In the 1980s, there was a rise in European dolls like somber-faced Sasha, as well as the great doll craze of the Cabbage Patch Kids. Another 80s phenomenon was Rainbow Bright and her friends, tied into cartoons and other merchandising. Of course, traditional baby dolls and some interesting beanbag versions continued to be popular. New doll trends arrived with the 1990s. Polly Pocket and Fashion Polly dolls were released. Their small size and compact playsets made them perfect for small hands and limited space. New gimmick-based dolls include Little Miss Dress-Up and Make-Up Mindy. Dolls from books and television shows like Madeline, her friends, and her teacher, Miss Clavel, or Molly and the Dust Bunnies from The Big Comfy Couch, were also big hits. Barbie continued to evolve in the 1980s and 1990s, but definitely still had the benefits of glamorous outfits and an exciting life. Mattel also released the first international dolls, including Japan, Korea, and Canada, as well as a Dallas-inspired Western living Barbie and her horse. In the 1990s, doll collectors flocked to buy both mid-level dolls like the Great Eras line and exclusive dolls like the exquisite Venetian Opulence Barbie or the Madame du Barbie by Bob Mackie. These collector editions offer exceptional detailing for the adult collector. In the early 2000s, many new Barbie lines were introduced, including the Princesses of the World line, which blended geographic regions and historical eras to offer a mix of princess dolls from around the world and throughout time. The world landmark Barbie doll line celebrates 4 world-famous structures: the Eiffel Tower, Big Ben, the Statue of Liberty, and the Sydney Opera House. Adult doll collectors are often fascinated with both posability of the dolls and their fashions. This case showcases some of the best of the fashion doll lines, like the 22-inch American Model dolls, Evangeline Ghastly dolls, and Ellowyne Wilde dolls from Tonner, Super Frock dolls by Superdoll, and Silkstone Barbie and Ken dolls from Mattel. The attention to detail and scale in clothing and accessories make these dolls works of art. With high-quality materials, exquisite hairstyles, and to-scale jewelry, shoes, and underclothing, and the price tags to match, these are definitely not toys for children. At the opposite end of the doll spectrum from the high-end fashion dolls sits the Groovy Girls doll line from Manhattan Toy. Fabric dolls with yarn hair and easy-to-change clothing, these dolls appeal to children and adults alike with their playful nature, whimsical clothing, and charming pets. One of the most popular modern doll lines, American Girl dolls, were introduced in 1986. Historical character dolls show what life was like in the past. Dolls can also be customized to look like a specific lucky girl. Other companies have similar dolls, like Our Generation, Maple Lee, Journey Girls, and Favorite Friends. Turning to the world of high fashion, the Jean Marshall doll was created by Mel Odom in 1995 and released by Ashton Drake. The main character, Jean, is a 1940s movie star, and the various dolls depict her both in costume from her movie roles and dressed for celebrity life. These dolls are beloved by collectors for capturing the romance and glamour of the silver screen during the golden age of Hollywood, and the names of the dolls reflect that era, with titles like Love Paris and Night at Versailles. The original line was retired in 2005, although other companies have released some dolls since then, including Integrity Toys. Today's dolls reflect a modern edge and current trends in television and movies, from Harry Potter to Monster High. With a fascination for magic, fantasy, and fantastic characters, they capture the imagination by illustrating the supernatural world, whether through old favorites like Beauty and the Beast or new stories. Even classic stories like Red Riding Hood, Goldilocks, and Dr. Seuss have inspired fantasy fashion dolls. Brightly colored or dark and moody, these dolls reflect a story for every taste and person. Of course, dolls aren't only for girls. Classic boys figures like these 1964 G.I. Joes or Iron Man and Star Trek characters are usually called action figures, but they are a form of doll. Bride dolls have been perennial favorites for many decades. Even Barbie has been married, with dresses from many designers, including this over-the-top confection by Bob Mackie. The dream of a white wedding has been captured in myriad ways, from 1930s austerity to 1980s excess, and everything in between. Some are designed to represent real people like Princess Diana or Princess Grace, while others simply capture a special moment in the form of a doll in a frilly gown. Alice in Wonderland is an enduring theme for dolls. Many manufacturers have created dolls based on this classic children's story, including Tonner, Mattel, Madame Alexander, and others. Everything from the original storybook illustrations to the many movie versions can be found in doll form, whether you're seeking Alice herself, the Queen of Hearts, the Mad Hatter, or any other character that catches your fancy. Today, dolls of all types are part of the landscape for those who want to play with them and for those who want to collect them. Made of porcelain, vinyl, composition, plastic, or fabric, fashion dolls, toddler dolls, fantasy dolls, and baby dolls. Dolls that represent fictional characters and those that represent real people. Dolls that reflect good or evil. Homemade dolls, commercially made dolls, and those made to benefit charities. The future of dolls is as varied as its past and is sure to be just as exciting.